Assalamu alaikum student. I hope you will be fine at your homes. So let's start today's lesson. Previously we discussed the structure of mitochondria. There was only one point left on that day, and that's about number of Christie. You remember that we said that outer mitochondrial membrane is smooth, while the inner mitochondrial membrane, it gets folded to form finger-like structure called Christie. So there was one point left with regard to the number of Christie. Number of Christie also varies in different mitochondria, and once again it depends on the activity of the cell. Just like we said, more active is the cell, more is the number of mitochondria. Same is the case over here. More active are the cell, then of course more is the number of mitochondria, and also in those mitochondria which are present in those cells which are more active as compared to other cells, Christie are comparatively more longer in size and they are densely packed. While we can say that in other cells who are less active, might be the case that the Christie in the mitochondria, they are comparatively shorter in size and they are loosely packed. Right? So this was the point left in that lesson on that day. Today we are going to start with the process of respiration. As we said that the process of respiration is basically divided into four stages. The glycolysis, and then you see its link reaction, then Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation. Which is also called as ETC, means electron transport chain. Now, as far as the location, where do these processes take place, we have already discussed, like once again reviewing that glycolysis takes place in cytoplasm of cell. Cytoplasm there is some problem here with cytoplasm of the cell. Then as far as link reaction is concerned, this takes place in the matrix. Krebs cycle, this also takes place in the matrix. And as far as oxidative phosphorylation is concerned, that takes place on inner mitochondrial membrane, right? So now coming to the process of glycolysis first. Before we start the process of glycolysis, let me clarify a few things. We will be using some terminologies throughout this process again and again. So let's see what are those terminologies which we will be using on and off. First is decarboxylation. Decarboxylation, obviously the word D comes with removal. It means removal. So removal of carbon dioxide. There is some problem. So carbon dioxide. Second is dehydrogenation. And of course, this is removal of hydrogen. Third is phosphorylation. And that is addition of phosphate. And dephosphorylation, which is obviously the opposite of this, that is the removal of phosphate group. Right? So I will be describing it once again. Decarboxylation, which we mean removal of carbon dioxide. Dehydrogenation means removal of hydrogen. Phosphorylation means addition of phosphate. And dephosphorylation means removal of phosphate. Okay, so phosphorylation is addition of phosphate group and dephosphorylation is the removal of phosphate group. So now once again, you will see throughout these processes, we will be talking about one molecule here, which are acting as hydrogen carriers. Hydrogen carrier molecules. We will be describing these hydrogen carrier molecules later on because as per the sequence of book, they are describing it after the process of respiration is over. But let me just describe here one point. Wherever the process of dehydrogenation occurs, obviously, by dehydrogenation, we mean removal of hydrogen. So wherever dehydrogenation occurs, hydrogen is removed from a certain molecule. So that hydrogen which is removed from the molecule, that is picked up by this hydrogen carrier molecule. Okay. There are two hydrogen carrier molecules which we will be using in the process of respiration. That is, one is NAD, the other is FAD. As I said, we will be describing their structure later on. Okay. But just remember for the time being now, wherever we will be talking about dehydrogenation means hydrogen is going to be removed from a molecule and then that hydrogen is going to be picked up by these hydrogen carrier molecules. Obviously, they are the oxidizing agents. When they are going to accept the hydrogen, they become reduced, right? So, and these reduced hydrogen carrier molecules, they play a very, very important role in the process of respiration, especially concerning with the synthesis of ATP, because much of the energy which is required for the synthesis of ATP, it comes from these hydrogen carrier molecules once they get reduced. So, coming to the process of glycolysis. Now you see, the word, what does the word glycolysis mean? Actually, glycose was a very, that's an old term, a very old term used for glucose, right? And we know that lysis means break up or splitting. Okay, so lysis means splitting or breakup, and the word glyco, actually it comes from the word glycose, which was once upon a time used for glucose, but that is a very, very old terminology. Now we don't use glycose anymore, rather we are going to describe it as glucose. So that's why it means in the process of glycolysis, there is a splitting of glucose molecule. Okay, so glucose is the main substrate from which the process of glycolysis is going to start. A few things are there which are not given in the syllabus and they are not the part of the syllabus, but just for the information, you people must be knowing that the process of glycolysis, actually, it is a multi-step process and it has almost 10 steps. right? And each step is catalyzed by a certain enzyme, right? And you will see that basically when we say that the process of in the process of glycolysis, when we say it starts from glucose, so what happens there? It starts from glucose, and actually the end product of glycolysis is pyruvate, right? And on the way, a few other molecules are also formed, which we are going to discuss while explaining the process of glycolysis. Okay, so I hope it's clear what does the word glycolysis mean. So actually, it's a splitting of glucose molecule which takes place in glycolysis. And once again, the process of glycolysis does not take place inside the mitochondria of the cell. Rather, it takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. And for this process, oxygen is not required. Remember that we are going to talk about over here cellular aerobic respiration, for which oxygen is required. But in the process of glycolysis, you don't find oxygen anywhere because oxygen is not required for this process. And that's why you will see later on when we are talking about anaerobic respiration, in which only modified glycolysis takes place, and that's the reason only glycolysis takes place over there, because no oxygen is required here. So you see, first of all, so we start with glucose. Now you see here in the book, in your syllabus, uh, as per your syllabus, structural formulas are not required, right? During this whole process of respiration. As far as molecular formulas are concerned, they are also not required. So we will be just writing what is important there. Like let's say when we talk about glucose molecule, now it is a hexose sugar. When we say it's a hexose sugar, it means hexo word hexa, six, right? So it means it consists of six carbons. So you see, this is very, very important to mention how many carbon atoms are there in each molecule. Okay, so you will see throughout the book, even they are writing either on the side or maybe in the brackets, they are always writing the number of carbon atoms present in that molecule. Okay, so glucose, as it is a hexose sugar containing six carbons. Okay, now, basically, as I told you, glycolysis is a 10-step process, but once again, in the syllabus, all the 10 steps are not mentioned. So we will go as per syllabus, but wherever required, I will be giving you some additional information as well. So we can see here that actually on the side, I'm going to write it down because this is not in the syllabus. Glucose, it first of all, the process of phosphorylation occurs here, right? Now, the process of phosphorylation, as we said, it's the addition of phosphate group. Now, this phosphate group is added to whom? It's added to glucose. So actually, glucose changes into glucose 6 phosphate. Okay, then glucose 6 phosphate changes into its isomer form, which is fructose 6 phosphate. Okay, so glucose gets phosphorylated, means one phosphate group is added to the glucose. From where this phosphate group comes? It comes from the hydrolysis of ATP. Now, we know that basically respiration is the process where energy is released, and that energy is used for the synthesis of ATP. but somewhere we have to invest some energy. Just like that, you see, when we have a matchstick, we cannot burn it on its own. We have to rub it against that against the surface of the matchbox. So we have to provide some energy so that it's going to burn, and then it's going to give the energy. Same is the case over here. For the synthesis of ATP, we have to put in some ATP, but that amount of ATP which is used, that is obviously very less as compared to that which is synthesized. So when we look at the, when we calculate an overall gain of ATP molecules, we will see more ATP molecules are produced as compared to number of molecules utilized. So basically, this ATP gets hydrolyzed into ADP and inorganic phosphate. This phosphate group is added to this glucose, and this glucose changes into glucose 6 phosphate. Okay, so over here phosphorylation occurs of whom? Of glucose. Okay, obviously at this stage dephosphorylation is also taking place, but dephosphorylation किसकी हो रही है? ATP की, और phosphorylation किसकी हो रही है? Glucose की. तो यहाँ पे हम dephosphorylation actually mention नहीं करेंगे, because basically we are concerned with glucose over here. ठीक है, so after the addition of phosphate groups which comes from the hydrolysis of ATP, this glucose changes into glucose 6 phosphate. Why it is called as 6 phosphate? Because phosphate group is added on carbon number 6. We will not go into the detail of this, but you will see in your book, when we look at the flow chart, they are changing glucose directly into fructose phosphate. However, in between, this stage comes first. Glucose gets phosphorylated first, and then it changes into isomer. You know, what are the isomers? Obviously, fructose is also a hexose sugar, once again containing 6 carbon atoms. But the thing is this, molecular formulas of glucose and fructose, they are the same. The difference is in the structural formula. Obviously, when glucose changes into fructose 6 phosphate, or the glucose 6 phosphate changes into fructose 6 phosphate, there is a rearrangement of atoms, and because of that, glucose gets changed into its isomer, which is called as fructose. So, erasing this thing, once again we will start with glucose. Now we will go as per given in your book. So glucose, which is 6 carbon, that first of all changes into fructose, like they have omitted one step over here. Fructose phosphate. Now for fructose phosphate is obviously once again 6 carbon. It's only the addition of phosphate which has taken place over here. And then of course this is 1 ATP is utilized here. One molecule of ATP is utilized at this step, because that ATP gets hydrolyzed into ADP and inorganic phosphate, and that phosphate which has been removed from ATP, that is added to the glucose, and of course the glucose phosphate, and then it changes into fructose phosphate. As I said earlier, it changes actually into glucose phosphate first, but in your books it's okay, because in question papers as well, they follow the same flow diagram, so we will go for the same as well. Now the next step is, then again one more ATP molecule is added here, is utilized here. Once again the hydrolysis of ATP takes place into ADP and inorganic phosphate. That phosphate is added to fructose phosphate, and as a result fructose phosphate changes into fructose bisphosphate. Now you know that it's again 6 carbon. Now you know that the word bis, it indicates 2. It means now to the fructose 2 phosphate groups have been attached. Actually, it is fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, because the second phosphate group, it attaches to the carbon number 1. But once again, it's not the requirement of the syllabus that we are going to mention 6 and 1 and all that. Okay, so actually, if you see both these two processes, they are the processes of phosphorylation. Right? By phosphorylation, one phosphorylation is taking place here. One phosphate added and glucose changes into fructose phosphate. Second phosphorylation takes place over here, where phosphate group is added to fructose phosphate, and then it gets changed into fructose bisphosphate. Then you see this fructose bisphosphate, actually it breaks down. Now is the process of breaking down, because in the initially we said what does the word glycolysis means? It is the splitting of glucose. Now this splitting takes place at this step. Fructose bisphosphate, actually it changes into two molecules of triose phosphate. Now, when we are saying two molecules of triose phosphate, now triose phosphate, obviously triose is once again a sugar consisting of 3 carbon. So over here, 3 carbon molecule is formed, but now there are 2 molecules of triose phosphate. And why we are not saying bisphosphate, because actually fructose bisphosphate, it breaks up into 2 molecules of triose phosphate. So one phosphate group goes with one triose molecule and the other phosphate group goes with the other triose molecule. Okay. And one thing in the start, that why it needs to be why glucose needs to be phosphorylated. If you remember, we at the start of the chapter we mentioned that glucose is an energy rich molecule, but it does not react easily. Okay, so to make it more reactive and to tap the bond energy of the glucose, energy first has to be utilized for the reaction, so that the reaction can take place easily, so that the glucose can react easily. So that's why we increase the energy level of glucose by phosphorylation. So that's why phosphorylation takes place in the start, and and for that energy is also required, and a phosphate is also required, which comes from the hydrolysis of ATP. Now, when the two molecules of triose phosphate have been formed, as I have left space over here, so I will be continuing from the two molecules of triose phosphate on the next page. So I will be making it clear. Now we start once again with two molecules of triose phosphate, which are 3 carbon. Okay, now what happens here? In your syllabus, they have not discussed so many steps. So what's there that rather there are intermediates. Actually, the triose phosphates, they have different names. For example, one of the compound is dihydroxyacetone phosphate, etc. But you need not to remember these names. Just remember triose phosphate. Intermediates are there, and all these intermediates are obviously 3 carbon. And finally, the ultimate end is 2 molecules of pyruvate, which are the 3 carbon molecule. Okay. Now, in between that, what happens there? Energy is released over here, and that energy is utilized for the synthesis of ATP. So 2 molecules of ATP are synthesized here, right? And 2 molecules of ATP are produced here, right? Now, if you see, we said in the start, 2 molecules of ATP are utilized. So basically, if we write down side by side, what are the end products of glycolysis? One is two molecules of pyruvate, which are 3 carbon. Second product क्या है? There are total 4 ATP molecules produced, but remember in the start 2 ATP molecules were utilized. So if we look at the net gain of ATP molecules, it's 2 ATP molecules. Because 4 molecules they were overall produced, but as 2 ATP molecules were utilized, तो हम जो glycolysis का net gain है ATP molecule के reference से, that's we say 2 ATP molecules. Okay. And what is the third thing over there? Now, over here, what happens? Hydrogen's dehydrogenation occurs during these steps. And obviously, as a result of dehydrogenation, hydrogen is removed at certain places. Okay? And as a result of that, what happens? Those hydrogen carrier molecules, as I said, there are 2 hydrogen carrier molecules to be utilized in the process of respiration, which we are going to discuss later on in detail. But for the time being, just remember their names. In the process of glycolysis, the hydrogen carrier molecule which is going to be utilized, that is NAD. So 2 NAD molecules are there, and these 2 NAD molecules, they are going to receive these hydrogen and they are going to get reduced. So 2 reduced NAD. So what is the third product of, like, by the end of glycolysis, what we have? 2 molecules of pyruvate, which is the end product of glycolysis. Side by side, 4 molecules of ATP were produced, but as 2 have been utilized in the start, so we say net gain of ATP molecules is 2 ATP, and then 2 reduced NAD molecules. Right? So this was all about the process of glycolysis. Okay. Now, coming to the next one. Okay. Now remember that wherever we will be talking about hydrogen carrier molecules, whether they are NAD or FAD, obviously by the end they get reduced. Whenever they are going to pick up the hydrogen, they are going to reduce. All reduced NAD and FAD from all the stages of respiration, means from glycolysis, link reaction, and Krebs cycle, they ultimately enter into the last stage of aerobic respiration, which is oxidative phosphorylation. So you will see that on the way, uh, during the process of glycolysis, link reaction, Krebs cycle, we won't be discussing what is the function of these reduced NAD or FAD. You will see that we will just look at it. Wherever dehydrogenation takes place, hydrogen is going to be picked up by these hydrogen carrier molecules, and as a result, once they receive the hydrogen, they get reduced. All these reduced hydrogen carrier molecules, they ultimately enter into the oxidative phosphorylation, where they are going to play a very, very important role for the synthesis of ATP. Now, what happens in the link reaction? As we said, 2 molecules of, now as far as glycolysis products were concerned, ATP molecules are produced which are going to be utilized by the cell wherever energy is required. As far as reduced NAD is concerned, that reduced NAD is going to enter into the last stage of aerobic respiration, which is oxidative phosphorylation. So what is left behind? That is 2 molecules of pyruvate, which are each 3 carbon molecule. Now, when we talk about link reaction, okay, one thing over here, we said glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. So it means pyruvate is there in the cytoplasm. But we know that link reaction takes place in the matrix of mitochondria. So what happens to the pyruvate then? Basically, pyruvate passes from the cytoplasm of the cell. It is transported from the cytoplasm through the outer and inner mitochondrial membrane into the mitochondrial matrix by the process of active transport. Okay, so if I write over here that pyruvate, the two molecules of pyruvate from one glycolysis, they two pyruvate, they are transported through outer and inner mitochondrial membrane, finally into mitochondrial matrix. And this transport occurs by the process of active transport. So pyruvate molecules are actively transported through outer and inner mitochondrial membrane, finally into the mitochondrial matrix, where they enter into the link reaction. Now remember that in glycolysis, the two molecules of pyruvate were produced. Now, two molecules of pyruvate, when transported inside the mitochondrial matrix, each pyruvate molecule enters into a separate link reaction, right? So when we are talking about the link reaction, we are going to talk about in terms of one pyruvate molecule, but actually there are two pyruvate molecules which are going to enter into two link reactions at the same time. So pyruvate is here, which is 3 carbon. Now this pyruvate molecule, when it enters into the link reaction, it gets decarboxylated, means carbon dioxide is removed. So this is decarboxylation here, right? Then it's dehydrogenated as well. When we are saying dehydrogenated, over here NAD comes once again. This NAD is going to pick up that hydrogen and gets reduced. So changes into reduced NAD. Clear? So two processes takes place. Dehydrogenation and decarboxylation. So pyruvate gets decarboxylated, means carbon dioxide is removed from pyruvate. Pyruvate gets dehydrogenated, means hydrogen is removed from the pyruvate. Obviously carbon dioxide is a waste product over here, right? If as far as hydrogen is concerned, NAD is there to pick up this hydrogen, and that it picks up the hydrogen, it gets reduced. So one reduced NAD molecule is produced there. Okay. Now once pyruvate gets decarboxylated and dehydrogenated, then it combines with a molecule which is called as coenzyme A. Coenzyme A. And as a result, what is formed here? That is acetyl coenzyme A. Now, as carbon dioxide was removed from here, so obviously how many carbon atoms are left there? As a result of that, acetyl coenzyme A, which is the end product of link reaction, this is a molecule containing 2 carbon, right? So in link reaction, first of all, pyruvate, which has been produced as a result of glycolysis in the cytoplasm of the cell, that is transported through inner and outer mitochondrial membrane into the mitochondrial matrix by the process of active transport. And then in the mitochondrial matrix, each pyruvate molecule is going to enter into a separate link reaction. In link reaction, what happens? Each pyruvate molecule gets decarboxylated, dehydrogenated, and combined with coenzyme A to produce a molecule, which is acetyl coenzyme A, and this is the 2-carbon molecule. Now remember that when we talk about the overall products of link reaction, what is that? Now we are going to talk about in terms of 2 pyruvate molecules. Sometimes they ask this question in, in case of in Cambridge exams as well, and students by mistakes they talk about in terms of 1 pyruvate molecule. They forget the other pyruvate molecule as well. Because when we are going to talk about the link reaction overall in terms of its product, obviously we have to look at both the pyruvate molecules. So what are the end products of link reaction for 2 pyruvate molecules? It's 2 molecules of acetyl coenzyme A, right? Second, what is there? Carbon dioxide is there, but obviously we are not going to consider this because this is one of the waste product there, and that's going to be removed from the body. Second is, obviously for 1 pyruvate it's 1 reduced NAD, but obviously when we are going to talk about in terms of 2 pyruvate molecules, it's 2 reduced NAD molecules. So these are the products of, these are the end products of link reaction. Now you can see over here once again, these reduced NAD molecules, they are carried to the last stage of respiration, which is oxidative phosphorylation, and acetyl coenzyme A molecule, they enter into the next step of respiration, which is Krebs cycle. Okay, one thing over here, that let's talk about coenzyme A. What is coenzyme A? Coenzyme A is basically, it's a complex molecule which consists of 1 nucleoside. You remember nucleoside, when a nitrogenous base is attached with a sugar, that is called as nucleoside, right? So over here, it consists of 1 nucleoside, and what is the nitrogenous base? That is adenine. Adenine, and what kind of sugar is there? That is ribose. So when a nitrogenous base gets attached to a sugar molecule, actually that molecule is called, collectively that is called as a nucleoside. And you remember when a phosphate group attached to it, that changes, then nucleoside changes into a nucleotide, okay? But coenzyme A, it consists of 1 nucleoside in which nitrogenous base is adenine and sugar is ribose. And then it consists of, it also contains a vitamin, 1 nucleoside, and a vitamin which is pantothenic acid. The more detail is not in the syllabus about the coenzyme A, so even we are not going to discuss it, neither the structure as well, okay? But remember that coenzyme A, wherever it is present, it is acting as a carrier of, coenzyme A is a carrier of acetyl group. Okay, so coenzyme A is acting as a carrier of acetyl group to the Krebs cycle. Okay, over here. And once again, the hydrogen which is transferred from the pyruvate, which is removed from the pyruvate, that is transferred to NAD, and as a result, NAD is getting reduced. Okay. Now, one thing, you know, like this process we started with glucose. Glucose changed into pyruvate, pyruvate entering into the link reaction, and at the end of the link reaction, what is formed? That is acetyl coenzyme A, right? Now, if you see over here, this is the stage where fatty acids from the metabolism of fats, they may also be used to produce acetyl coenzyme A. So you can see that fatty acids, they may enter into the link reaction, okay? at this stage. Like they can enter into the process of respiration, fatty acids, at the stage of link reaction. Okay, so basically what happens there, if you remember that the fatty acids, they are the long chains of carbon hydrogen. So fatty acids are broken down in the mitochondria in a cycle of reactions in which each turn of cycle, it shortens the fatty acid chain by a 2 carbon acetyl unit. Okay, like at each turn of cycle, fatty acid chain gets shortened because what is removed from there, a 2 carbon acetyl unit. Okay, and we know that the coenzyme A, if it is present there, we know it is a carrier of acetyl group. So coenzyme A, then it combines with that acetyl group, and as a result, once again, what is formed, acetyl coenzyme A. So this coenzyme, acetyl coenzyme A, is going to enter into the Krebs cycle. Okay, so but this time this acetyl coenzyme A is not produced from the breakdown of glucose. It's not produced from the metabolism of glucose, rather it is produced from the fat metabolism. From the breakdown of fats, fatty acids are produced, and from the further as we said that fatty acids, they have long chains of carbon hydrogen. So there is a cycle of events, and in each turn of the cycle, one acetyl unit is removed from the fatty acid chain, and that acetyl unit is going to combine with the coenzyme A to produce acetyl coenzyme A. So this acetyl coenzyme A is going to enter into the Krebs cycle, but just with the difference that when we are talking about the glucose metabolism, then acetyl coenzyme A, which is produced in the link reaction, that is coming from the pyruvate. But when we are talking about this acetyl coenzyme A, which is entering into the Krebs cycle, that is actually coming from the fatty acids. Okay, so fatty acids, this is you can see fatty acids, they can enter into the process of respiration at this stage of respiration. So I hope this is enough for today. In the next lesson, we will talk about Krebs cycle and then oxidative phosphorylation together, inshallah. So thank you very much. Allah Hafiz. Have a nice day.